Good morning. Oop, yeah, well, I'll get the right button in a second. Good morning. Welcome to our study this morning. And excuse the church dog telling us something's going on. Okay, good morning. Welcome to our study this morning. We're continuing our interrupted study of spiritual warfare and the Enneagram. This is a good opportunity to give my caveat. There is nothing about the Enneagram that teaches us how to live the Christian life. What the Enneagram does is identify behaviors and motivations, thinking patterns of human life, and then we must transform through the Spirit and through the Word of God our life into that spiritual life that we seek. We can't just rely on the Enneagram. If you do any research at all on the Enneagram on the internet, you will find how their role is to change you into the good, but the good that they want to change you into is human good, not divine good. And human good is as much an enemy of the spiritual life as human bad, as sinful behavior, because it substitutes human behavior for our spiritual life. So that's my caveat. We use the Enneagram only to identify the way we think, the way we act, the way we are motivated, so that we might also see the way others think, act, and are motivated, so that we might respond to them with the fruit of the Spirit in the appropriate manner. It's always been my contention that the Spirit never forces us to do anything, but if we are allowing the Spirit to work. Well, my concept is that if we have an 8 or a 2 or a 4 that we come in contact with, that being kind to them, as in our example, is going to be different for each one. And the Spirit will produce that kindness in us as we recognize what the necessity is in that person's life. So that's my Enneagram caveat here that, let's see if I can pull up this. Yeah, my Enneagram caveat. Well, it didn't come up, did it? Oh, it's because I haven't changed cameras yet. Okay, here we go. So the Enneagram caveat. All right. I apologize for being gone for a couple of weeks from broadcasting. The microphone problem that we had 2 weeks ago was the receiver for the wireless microphones, and it blew. And so I had to replace it, and it took until this week to receive the new microphone system. So that's why we were off for 2 weeks. Okay, I think we're ready to begin. Let's go ahead and begin with our prayer time. Uh-oh. Get this right. Okay. Father, we are grateful for your word. We're grateful for your love. We're grateful for our salvation. We're grateful for the fruit of the Spirit in our lives through the working of the Holy Spirit in us. We thank you that we have all of these blessings, these spiritual blessings from the heavenlies, to be able to operate in this world. We ask that as we study the thinking process, the actions, the motivations of this world, that we see ourselves so that we might see where we need spiritual improvement, where we might see spiritual replacement for our own human good, and of course, that we see spiritual replacement for our human bad, our sinful behaviors as well. We ask that you show us ourselves and others so that we might appropriately minister to them. In Jesus' name, amen. We'll begin this week at the primarily religiously motivated in our cramps. You remember the cramps? They are, let's see here, I can do it this way. Maybe. Here, this one. The cramps are my human motivators, human happiness motivators, the things that motivate us in life. And there are 6 of them that I use the cramps as the way of understanding them. We have chemical, that's drugs, alcohol, endorphins, and enkephalins, adrenaline, all the things that stimulate the brain chemically. Religious, and there are those who are religiously motivated to be good and religiously motivated to be evil. The third one is approbation. This is the number 1 in the world. Approbation, wanting approval, wanting to be liked, to be loved, to be admired, to be all the way to worshiped. And then materialism. And then power. And finally, sex. Okay. So all of those things are the arenas in which we are motivated in our human lives. And they all have a good side and a bad side. We've covered those. I don't know if there's some of this on in some of my lessons. So in the Enneagram, there are different types. See if I can give a couple of examples. The chemical, type 7. Type 7 is the one who's always wanting activity so that they don't have to think about their fear and problems internally. So they want physical stimulation. 9s also tend to fall into chemical because they're more likely to go into drugs and alcohol because of the way they think. Religious, that's definitely a 1 and an 8 are the predominantly religious. The 1 being everything should be righteous, everything should be done the right way. The 8, more of a power version. It's up to them. They're more of the savior complex that they want to fix everything. Approbation, mostly we look at 2, but there's also 4. 2 is the one who's always trying to help and be friendly, to be appreciated. The 4 wants to be appreciated for their uniqueness, the fact that they're different, the fact that they have suffered in life, and therefore you should appreciate them. Materialism is mostly a 3 because the 3 is the succeeder, the one who wants to be very successful. And so he's a very materialistic oriented because the signs of success are often materialism. The power, that goes to 8. Also 8 because they want to fix everything. They're the crusader. So they want to fix the wrongs of the world. But it also goes to the power group 5, 6, and 7 because they are a very fearful group and they have a power issue to trying to control their environment. The 7 controlling their environment by always being active to avoid their fear. The 6s are the investigator, the type that's always thinking everything through, makes lists and checks them twice and goes through everything to make sure that everything is safe. The 5 is fearful as well, and they have problems with power. And then, of course, sex. Sex is not directly displayed in the Enneagram, Many of the types have sexual issues. The 2 sometimes, the 4 sometimes are the most likely to have sex show up. But as we'll be learning in 2 or 3 weeks, there are subtypes for each of the 9 Enneagram types. And in the subtypes, we'll find these brought out even more clearly. So we'll see them more clearly as we go on. But this will give you kind of an idea. These aren't perfect illustrations, but you'll see them as we go. Probably have already seen them to some degree. When we get through all of our description phase that we're in now, and this is what 3rd or 4th lesson on descriptions of the types. When we get through with that section, then we'll be doing more cramps, more human happiness motivators, and seeing them in the 9 types. And of course, I hate to bring it up to you, but if there are 9 types, then that means that there are 27 subtypes. But they're pretty, not that difficult to figure out, to visualize once you've learned them. You can kind of get to see them. So we'll be getting to those. So your depth of information will grow and grow and grow as we proceed. And then we'll take all of that information that you will have memorized. He said, ironically, all of that you have memorized, and you'll be able to see it in relationship to the Christian virtues, the fruit of the Spirit, eusebia, the different ways that we have identified Christian virtues and how these offset our human behavior, both human good and human bad, both of which are enemies of the spiritual life. Okay, so now we're back at the opening slide here, and we've only taken 10, 12 minutes to get there. So we are going to look again, as I said, with the religiously motivated of the cramps. That's the 8s, 9s, and 1s are predominantly religiously motivated. Then the approbation motivated, that's the 2s, 3s, and 4s. They're all about love me, appreciate me. And then finally, the power motivated, the 5s, 6s, and 7s. First, we'll look at the 8. I'm looking at them in this order, the order that I just brought out to you, the religiously motivated first, then approbation, then power. 8 is the first one in the religiously motivated. This particular author, and I've taken these notes from Psychology Junkie and Beatrice Chestnut, Naranjo, Claudio Naranjo, who is he's the psychiatrist that developed a lot of the subtypes and so on. He's one of my big references. And then here and there from other people. I'm going to recommend some. I should at the end of each lesson give you some recommendations. There's one young lady named Abby. If you do a search Enneagram Abby, she does a really good job of illustrating behaviors of each of the types in different arenas. I'll give you, I don't have it done for today, but for next week, I'll give you more specifics about hers. But she's like an actress, and she does it humorously as well. But it really sticks with your thinking when you see it portrayed the way she does it. So I'll have to, maybe at halftime, I'll find her link so I can give it to you because it's an excellent way to learn them. Most everybody else is quite academic, more didactic in their presentation. Hers more lively and very interesting. So the 8. Here's a quick overview of the 8. He is part of the body triad. The body triad, 9, 8, 9, and 1. This is what they call the gut or the body that 8s, 9s, and 1s react somewhat instinctively rather than like the 2s, 3s, and 4s that are more emotionally, and the 5, 6, and 7s that are more intellectually. The 8 can have a 9 wing or a 7 wing. The nickname of the 8 is the challenger. Their ego fixation is vengeance. I'll fix it. Since we're going to look at those, I sent out yesterday afternoon, I sent out the several diagrams that I included in an email. This one, the Enneagram of passions. These are the passions. Passions is the old word for emotions. Okay? Emotions and emotional motivations. So if you look at this, you'll see the 8 is lust. Now, we tend in modern Western culture to think of lust as only sexual, but it's not. It's if you think of lust with one word, more. I want more of everything. I lust for food. I lust for a fancy car. I lust for, okay, it's wanting more. It's that desire that we have. The virtue is innocence. Where's innocence? Here it is. In the Enneagram, their fruit of the Spirit is a little different than ours, but I'm going to give you the Enneagram, what a Christian author who's an Enneagram expert lists these as the fruits of the Spirit. As you can tell, they're not what the Bible lists as the fruit of the Spirit, but he lists them that way. And innocence is the one for the 8. In other words, if they go to the good side, they are innocent in their outlook on life. The 8 integrates into 2 under growth and disintegrates into 5 under stress. So 2 and 5 are their arrows. You look at this diagram again. Look at your diagram. You see 8 has an arrow going to 5 and 8 has an arrow going to 2. Well, if you look at this is Richard Rohr, who's a Catholic priest who has done Enneagram work. If you look at his, so if an 8 goes to 2, they go to humility. Well, that's not an 8's way of thinking. 8's think they are the savior. They have a very high view of themselves. So going to humility is a good thing for an 8. And if they go to a 5, they go more to objectivity. They're not so ruled by their false concepts of themselves and the world. And so that can actually be a good thing also. So the terms integration and disintegration are a little confusing in the Enneagram terminologies. Integration, you can kind of see, okay, if I integrate with something, I merge with something, that's good. Well, the word disintegrates here is not disintegrates, it's disintegrates. Instead of integrating, it's non-integrating. The way I would do it is put a dash between DIS and integrates. So it's not what I would call non-integrating. And but we're going to get into those more later when we go into the final details of these different types. The basic fear of the 8 is to lose the ability to gain and hold power. The 8 wants power. That's how they see that they can control their life that they don't feel they're in control of. And of course, if you get into psychotherapy, you've got all of the childhood things that could be influencing them, or other things that have happened throughout their life. If you're not a real Freudian psychologist, then you'll see that other things in life besides childhood make us who we are. And so in the 8, their basic fear is to lose the ability to gain power or to hold power. Their basic desire is to be in control of the external and internal environment. They want to be in control of the world around them, but they also want to be in control of the world within them, because they know that they're out of control at times. They lose control. And of course, the number one way we know that any of us act when we lose control is with anger, and some form of anger, frustration, impatience, whatever it happens to be. Common values of the 8. I thought this to be quite interesting. Their common values: strength, power, influence, achievement, and perseverance. So those values can really stand out when you're looking at an 8, either at your own self as an 8 or looking at others. If you see someone who exudes or tries to exude strength or power, or tries to be an influencer, especially beyond what we would consider to be appropriate, one who is very achievement oriented in their sphere, and one who perseveres, does not give up, will fight till the death. Those are the common values of the 8. Under healthy levels of growth, growth, 8s move in the direction, and I prefer move because they move either way, and integration and disintegration, I think, confuse people. So I use the term just moves. 8s move in the direction of the 2 and become more caring as they eventually learn how to let down their guard. You see, 8s, because of their power motivation, have a hard time letting down their guard because they feel vulnerable if they do. So they always have this false protective mechanism going on when they're under stress. So if they move towards a 2, they become more caring and more likely to let down their guard. You can picture that in the I think it's sometimes easy to see in animals. You see a lion who is caring for a small animal that's sick. Now, the big, tough, powerful, ferocious lion, but they let down their guard to care for an injured dog or cat or some other animal that they take care of it. That's, to me, that kind of pictures an 8 moving in the direction of 2 and becoming more caring, letting down their guard. They're protective of those who are disadvantaged. You see that here. Taking care of others is a motivation for an 8. So moving towards 2 is kind of a normal kind of movement for them, because 2s are always trying to take care of people, helping people, so on, so that they can be a friend. So 8s will fight for the underdog. So if you have a tendency to fight for the underdog, then you probably have some 8 in you, depending on how much of it you do, because we all have all of these in us at one time or another. At normal levels, 8s are driven by a sense of power, influence, and competence. They're sensitive to the power dynamics in every conversation. in every conversation and situation they encounter, and often have a secret penchant for eavesdropping and people watching. Okay. Why is that? Well, because information is the key to power. Okay. Information is the key to power. You see that in governments. Governments wouldn't spy if they weren't worried about their power. So they have spy mechanisms, spies who are giving them information so that they can maintain their power. Well, normal eights want to know that too, because, okay, if I hear something about some disadvantaged person, some person that's being persecuted, this person who is being treated poorly, then I can step in and help. So information is important to an eight. So they're have a penchant for eavesdropping and for people watching to see, oh, this person this person looks to me that they've been browbeaten, that they may have been or may be currently being abused in some way. Probably seen people like that. I seem to have quite a bit of that in my 1, 2, 8 grouping, that I'm always looking for the underdog, the person that's being mistreated. Eights naturally take charge of situations because they don't want someone else to have control and steer the ship in the wrong direction. Okay. Now, this is at normal level. The eight doesn't want to lose power because they're afraid that whoever gains power will do the wrong thing. Okay. We're all that way to some degree. We don't want someone to take whatever the situation is in a bad direction. Now we'll go to, okay, all right, still on that normal levels. In contrast to the also competitive 3, eights are far more concerned about rising to the top, whatever it takes, and will likely offend, read more than, a few people along their path. With eyes on the prize, eights assert their dominance and sit in the driver's seat when it comes to steering the course of their lives. Deadlines, bring it on. Prioritization, of course. Work, signed, sealed, and delivered, and done. Okay. The 8 is an efficient, hard worker and wants to get it done. 3s are more concerned about the appearance of success and control and dominance, where an 8 actually is more concerned about doing it. So that's how you can tell the difference between an 8 and a 3. Under unhealthy levels of stress, this is when the 8s go downhill. Life becomes overwhelming to them. We all have those sensations. Well, the unhealthy level is where we go when we feel that life is overwhelming. Then we what I call deteriorate instead of disintegrate. We deteriorate in the direction of the bad side of 5. The bad side of 5. Not the good side of 5, but the bad side of 5. They become isolative, preoccupied with research and solitude. They want to turn inward. The once determined spark in their eyes dwindles away and is replaced with a lifeless gaze. In business or professional pursuits, 8s can develop a serious case of tunnel vision, where irrelevant details are given more credit than necessary. So if you find that you know someone who's an 8 and they're involved with irrelevant details, that means that the world is overwhelming them and they need kindness in the appropriate manner. Their once audacious plans gather dust at this stage, abandoned and forlorn. 8s have rationalized the inevitable doom for their projects. This isn't going to work. Now I have to rationalize it. They feel dejected, pick themselves up, and try something new. And in rationalizing, they'll say, well, it happened because the in business because the Fed did this. The Fed increased the money supply, and that messed up my ability to take care of this. They're always rationalizing when they're unhealthy. At their tipping point, they may take on a risky investment or venture to go all in with their hard-earned assets with hopes to turn around the situation. In other words, they'll become kind of desperate. Things aren't going well for me. I've got to do something. I'm going to do something big. And they want to turn around the situation, somewhat thinking that they have ability to do so. But again, that tunnel vision, a lot of it is just wishful thinking. The feet almost always ends up in shreds, which leaves eights miserable and trapped further down the hole of debt. Enneagram behavior under healthy levels is kind of a review of what we just talked about in the paragraph form. Eights under healthy levels, protective of loved ones, gallant walk and voice projection. They appear powerful. They appear to be in control. They appear to be dominant. Right? They're fearless and visionary for a bright future, or a brighter future. This is the healthy level. They see how things can be better, and they're fearless in trying to get there. This would be a good, if you could find one, a good politician, right? A good person seeking office. They're fearless and a visionary for a brighter future. And of course, all politicians talk about that, vote for me and I'll give you a brighter future. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. That's the 8 in them, but it's also because most politician 8s have problems on healthy levels. They're actually remembering how they were. If you take, I don't know if I get blocked from YouTube for saying this, but you know how politicians often start off very good in their early days, local politics and so on. They're looking for the best interest of the school board or the county government or the city government or whatever. They're really trying to help. They have a vision of how this could be better, and they know that they have the resources to do it, and so they work at it. Well, then they face the realities of politics, that you can't just do the good thing. Other people have their ideas of good things, and you have to compromise. And in compromising, then you have to get support. And in getting support, you have to compromise your ideals for donations, for political donations, and it tends to drag them down. I always wonder how politicians who started off with nothing become multimillionaires. Well, that's because of all of the gifts and influence that they're given, all of the information that they're given, insider work on the stock market and investments and those kind of things. I think that the healthy level politician, and there are some who maintain it. There are some politicians who've been in Congress for decades and still don't have anything. So I'm not saying that this is true of all politicians, but politicians tend to be dragged down by the system into an unhealthy level. But this healthy level, they're fearless. They have a vision for a brighter future. They try to bring it about. They're productive and hardworking. They're emotionally aware, and they're empathetic. They feel the plight of the underdog. Okay, they're very empathetic. Under normal levels, they are easily irritated and angered. They're competitive and forceful. It's my way or the highway. They're strong. They have a strong, or at least maybe only subtle, superiority complex, because they have been in their healthy stage. They have been very productive, very efficient, very successful in bringing about their visions. And so they have a superiority complex. I've done this. Look at me. And that's their story. When I was head of the agricultural department in the state of Mississippi, I brought about this change that helped the farmers and workers in Mississippi. Okay. They have this superiority complex, and they want to tell you about their past successes. They also become argumentative and high strung. Now that I've got a good microphone, now I'm going to lose my voice. So this is normal level. So this is not the healthy level. It's not the unhealthy level. This is their normal level that they can become irritated and angered, competitive and forceful, my way or the highway, subtle, perhaps subtle, even maybe a strong superiority complex, become argumentative and high strung. Unhealthy levels. This is the worse they get. And we're actually going to look at 9 levels of deterioration for each of the 9 levels. And you can see them go. And actually the lower levels are in the DSM-V, the Diagnostic Manual for Psychiatry and Psychology. Schizoid personality disorders, different disorders that they go to when we see the 9 levels. This lesson follows my pattern of introducing things to you and then later taking them deeper. And we'll take them deeper with the 9 levels of unhealthiness. Under unhealthy, an 8 becomes less doing and more thinking. Remember, they can go to the bad levels of 5. Withdrawing and negative. The development of tunnel vision. A lack of self-esteem and self-efficacy. They lose their confidence in what they can do and how successful they can be. And then they can even become isolated and sheltered. And you wonder, what happened to so-and-so? They were great. They led our PTA at the high school, and they were, he or she was president or a leader and did a lot of things and did all of that. And then things kind of happened. They had some kind of a tragedy in their life, and they ended up they don't show up at meetings. They've resigned from their committees. They're just they've withdrawn from life. That's because if they were an 8, they have become more isolated and sheltered because of the unhealthiness of their situation. Yeah, we're not going to get through all these this week, are we? Okay, now we move from the 8 to the 9. Oh, come on. My screen died. Okay, so as you see, we're moving around the circle. So we're moving, now let's just go to the first one. Let's go from 8 to 9, and then we'll go from 9 to 1 and cover these are the body, more instinctive group, also more the power group. Okay, so something I didn't bring out in the 8, the pitfalls, things that they fall into when they're in the unhealthy stage. Revenge. I'm going to get even with that person. Remember, they rationalize. So they'll rationalize that the reason my project failed is not because of my vision or my effort, because somebody messed it up and I'm going to get them for it. So they go to the level of revenge. Okay. The 9. The 9 is called the peacemaker. We tend to have misrepresented 9s because of the designation of sloth, because these are all old terms that are used in the Enneagram, and sloth doesn't necessarily mean lazy. There's an element of laziness, but we'll get into that. 9 is a relaxed and easygoing master of chill who finds purpose in maintaining a mind-body balance. Sounds like something we'd all like to be, right? I'd like to be an easygoing master of chill. That would be a good way to live life. 9s are gentle giants, wise beyond their years, influencing others through genuine kindness. As a result, they can mesh well with almost any group or individual, making them fantastic collaborators. Okay, now you can tell this is a very healthy person, this healthy 9, with high interpersonal intelligence. 9s are sticklers for peace and harmony. They work diligently behind the scenes, usually unbeknownst to others, but beknownst to some, to keep relationships nourished and well attended to. Interpersonal conflicts and misunderstandings are their areas of expertise. They're the peacemakers. You know, people are having a problem. You want these people to be mediators, like court-appointed mediators. You want them to be marriage counselors. You want them to be family counselors, because they have a great deal of wisdom, natural understanding of the way things are going, and they see both sides of the story. Procrastination is next to being family for 9s. I'll get to that tomorrow. As a matter of fact, if I was a 9, I would say this. I was going to join the Procrastination Society of America. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. Okay. Procrastination is common for a 9. I'll get to it someday. Okay. For some, it's the only friend they've ever known. 9s accumulate a great deal of potential energy by staying healthy. By staying relatively inert most of the time. Don't be chilled. Don't get too involved. To feel at ease and prepared for the future. Under stress, they become hyper-vigilant of potential sources of threats and can question almost every decision they make. If I do this, is this going to happen? What's going to happen? I don't want to lose harmony. I don't want to lose peace. I don't want to create discord. A quick overview of the 9. It's part of the body triad, of course, along with 8 and 1. Can have an 8 or a 1 wing. So if you're a 9 and have an 8 wing, you're going to have some 8 characteristics with your 9. If you are a 9 with a 1 wing, you're going to have more characteristics of the 1. These aren't commonly some Enneagram teachers and the Enneagram tests that we've taken tend to put us into a big wing thinking process, that the wing is part of our personality. That's not necessarily true. It can be, but it might not be, and we'll learn about that further as we go along. But you can be a little more 8-ish or a little more 1-ish if you're a 9. They're nicknamed the peacemaker. Their ego fixation is indolence. Slothfulness is another description for that. To me, it's they lose their self-awareness and awareness of other things, they lose their involvement. Okay, they're not lazy, but they just tend not to get involved in their own personal internal thinking process and evaluation of their own life or outside. That can happen. That's indolence. That's their fixation. Their vice is slothfulness. They might just want to sit around and watch television or read a book or be on YouTube all the time, watching things, just anything to keep them away from actively involved in their own thinking processes or in the world. Okay, so they become kind of like a 7 in that they try to avoid things with inactivity, but a 7 avoids things by a lot of activity. So they're opposite 7 in that way, but like a 7 in trying to avoid. Their vice is sloth. Their virtue is action. Virtue is action. Here's the virtue list. Action, getting it done. And 9s will vacillate between the two. You know, talk to a 9s one day, they didn't get out of their pajamas all day. Talk to them another day and they're already out and they've solved 9 problems. 9 problems of peace and interpersonal relationships, that kind of thing. They move towards a 3 when they're growing. They can move towards a 6 under stress. 6 are those who are, I think I may have kind of crossed 5s and 6s earlier when I was talking about the cramps, the human happiness motivators. 6s are authority driven. They're fearful. They're anti-authority, but they need an authority figure because they need that kind of security. So that can be the 6 can become overly motivated to follow a bad leader. Okay, I think a lot of people who follow religious cults, who fall for religious cults, are 6s, unhealthy 6s, who anything for a personality figure of authority to lead me, to give me guidance, and they fall into a cult, not occult, but cult practices. A lot of the cult people are that way, needing authority. Well, a 9 can deteriorate to that level if they are under stress of life, and you can see that things in my life are falling apart. You know, my car broke down, my plumbing's broken at the house, my family my sister's sick, my children are having marital problems. That they will tend to go towards an unhealthy 6 to just have somebody to follow to take their mind off everything that's gone wrong. Their basic fear is to be pushed into interpersonal conflict and stress. They're good at it, but they don't want to be pushed into it. Okay? They want to enter it willingly, because you have to remember they have this basic thing of power, religious power. They don't want to have to deal with things that they're not prepared to deal with. Their basic desire is to feel in sync with the external environment and with other people. Common values of the 9, and these are almost, I mean, you can just circle these because these are things that you can readily see about a 9. Harmony, cooperation, compassion, restoration, and balance. A healthy 9 with these values, you can see, oh, that's, you know, that person's a 9. They're always seeking harmony in the relationships of themselves with others and in relationships between others with others. They are cooperative, they're compassionate, they're the perfect marriage counselor, the perfect mediator, the perfect judge. Under healthy levels, nines move in the direction of the 3 and become time conscious. You see, a 3 is very success-oriented, and being success-oriented, they have to have a schedule. They're the person that gets up in the morning, pulls out their 8.5 by 11 legal pad, and writes down everything they're going to do that day and when they're going to do it. At 7:30, I'm going to do this. At 8:15, I'm going to do this. At 9:45, because they're very time conscious. Well, a 9 is not time conscious at all. I'll get to it. Okay, that's their motto. I'll get to it. Maybe today, maybe tomorrow. I don't know. Okay, but if they move towards the 3, they become very time conscious. Then they become more productive. They become more willing to work toward goals. They can freely voice their concerns about issues and relationships instead of just kind of cowering and offering subtle help in relationships. They can freely voice their concerns instead of resorting to passive aggressiveness or losing their own peace of mind. 3s are deeply appreciative of their mentors, friends, and family, and are huge cheerleaders in their personal and professional growth. So a good 3, okay, the 9 can become more like a 3 in that area as well, appreciative of mentors, friends, family, cheerleaders in personal and professional growth, and very confident. As 9s grow and mature, they discover new ways to confidently assert themselves in situations where they perceive a disconnect or misunderstanding. Oh, there's a misunderstanding here. And the way I see it is what you were saying was this, and what you were saying was this. And you're really saying the same thing. You're just looking at it from a different perspective. And so it sounds like you're at cross purposes, but you're really not. Okay, that's a 9 in growth. Okay, especially towards a 3, because 3s are more assertive. 9s are not that assertive. Instead of blending into the background, they're comfortable enough in their skin to make complex decisions for the well-being of themselves and for others. A normal 9 not going to make decisions for other people. A healthy 9 going to try to help. Okay. As a result, they learn effective strategies to manage and recognize procrastination and feelings of indifference when they show up. At normal levels, 9s avoid conflicts and can appear lax most of the time. They cherish quiet time alone, as well as peaceful discussions with friends. They'll have, if there's a nice quiet conversation on, the 9 will still be there. If it becomes a rowdy discussion, talking about politics, religion, things where people are getting a little agitated, the 9 will disappear, either physically disappear or disappear in their activity with the group. Okay, all of a sudden, they're still sitting there, but they're no longer participating. They've checked out. Okay, they cherish quiet time alone, peaceful discussions, but not when the discussions become bubble up. When negative emotions bubble to the surface, 9s will deny them and convince themselves that they cannot harbor such emotions. This is one of their most commonly used defense mechanisms to protect and preserve group and personal harmony. I don't have any negative emotions. Well, and why? Because that disturbs them, and so they don't want to admit that they have them. The pent-up resentment accumulates over time and may all erupt at once. 9s use several coping mechanisms to deal with strong feelings: denial, repression, and even humor. They aim to be as level-headed as possible when they navigate through life. This way, conflicts can diffuse by themselves, a largely untrue belief that conflicts can diffuse by themselves. But nines, in their coping strategies of denial and repression, can feel that way. Under unhealthy levels of stress, my world's falling apart, nines move toward, disintegrate, or what I call deteriorate, in the direction of the 6 and become overly paranoid. I've already talked about this. Distrusting of others. You see, 6s are either very pro-authority because I need the security, or very anti-authority because I need the security that comes from not following the crowd, following the leader. Okay, they call them phobic and counterphobic 6s. They're aimless. To the point of being unable to leave the house. 6s often become hermits. They're aimless and lethargic. Waves of apathy hit hard, a balancing act gone haywire. Each day becomes virtually indistinguishable from the next. Errands and chores get pushed to the side. Time slips away. That's when they really become procrastinators, when they get into the bad side of 6. Okay, it's 10:56 Eastern Standard Time, 9:56 Central Time and Panama Time. We've covered 2 of the 9. At this rate, it will take us 3 weeks to cover all of these. Yeah, well, 2 weeks to cover all of these. So those schedules that I had optimistically held out at the beginning are going to be delayed. So let's go ahead and take our break. We'll try to get 2s and 3s next hour, then 4s and 5s, and then I wanted to try to get all three, each of the 3 groups in the same hour, so that you would see the relationship that they have. So let's pray, and we'll go ahead and take a break now. Father, we're grateful for your ability and grace to show us ourselves through normal and abnormal human behavior. We ask that if we are an 8 or a 9, that you bring these things to our attention through the Spirit, so that we might then adjust to your grace and the fruit of the Spirit, the thinking of the doctrine of the Word, so that we might not continue in our negative human life, but be transformed in our minds and be renewed to thinking in spiritual harmony with you. We thank you for it in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, so let's go to 10 after and see how this works out.